Yo, what's going on, everybody? A few things. So, as soon as I ended my Bleacher Report stream, of course, there was going to be corresponding Eagles news. This entire show was about how big of a deal it is to lose Fred Johnson. And you may laugh at that when you first hear it, but the truth is, he played such an important role for you. I trust Howie, I trust Jeff Stoutland, but it's another thing that you have to add to the to-do list this offseason. Boom, Kendall Lamb. As soon as I ended the stream, boom, Kendall Lamb. So think of it this way when you listen. Less about they need to find someone to do this, and more apply Kendall Lamb, vet, been around the block, can do a lot for you. He's now the one going to do everything that I'm explaining. So that's the way I want you to lock in over the next 20 minutes or so. All right, before we jump on into the show, though, you know about my friends over at Green Lawn Fertilizing. I've been bragging about how great they are for weeks now. It is such a remarkable experience to work with them. They are the best. You hear me? The best in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, experts. They have their own custom blend that can help your lawn recover from any of the issues that it's dealing with. And truth be told, for a while, I didn't really care about how my lawn looked. Then I spoke to them. Then I talked to them. Then I allowed the experts to explain to me what the difference is, and I said, holy hell, I need to get my life together. And now we are in the process of having the most gorgeous lawn in the entire neighborhood. It is so important to lay the groundwork right now. They are offering 2 free treatments plus 10% off for the early birds. Make sure you check out the information down below in the description. That will send them a nice little notification. Hey, Brodes sent me when you sign up through that link, so make sure you check it out. Green Lawn Fertilizing, now is the time to get started. Love you guys. Appreciate the show. Appreciate you. Enjoy the show. Yeah, there you go. Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome on into Bleacher Report, and I have to talk about a potential sneaky big loss for the Philadelphia Eagles. And you may laugh when you hear the name, but just listen to me for a second, all right? Because a couple days ago, our swing tackle, Fred Johnson, signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And while traditionally speaking, this organization knows how to plug in anybody and their mother outside of Andre Dillard, and for the most part, when Jeff Stoutland gets a chance to work with you, you will flourish. You will at least keep your head above water, and that still stands true. But I just don't want to diminish exactly what Fred Johnson did for you last season. He stepped in for 6 starts. Our squad went 5-1. He was a key contributor in stopping someone that had 17.5 sacks for the Cincinnati Bengals in Trey Hendrickson. So there's no doubt about it. When this team turned their season around, guess who was on the line? Guess who stepped in? Guess who played that role? Big, massive role. Fred Johnson. You can go back, actually, and listen to some of my thoughts when the game against Cincinnati happened early in the season. I reflected on it and said, that felt different. That win, I didn't know if they had that style in them. The second half against Cincinnati was the first time I opened up the door and wondered, whoa, was the 2-2 start fluky? And there's more in them. I didn't know if we'd ever get that. We got that. Can they build off of it? Maybe. But it was the first time we got that. Fred Johnson was playing that day. And he played again, and he played again. And this team rattled off 10-plus games in a row winning. He was in the trenches when they got that momentum. So while I have a bunch of faith and so much pride and joy in their ability to have anybody step in and absolutely help this football team win games, that was a big loss that I don't know if it's truly getting the recognition that it deserves. And, you know, you'll see all sorts of analytical data, whether it's Pro Football Focus or any of these other number games that says he's not really valued that much, and he ranks 78th out of 80-something tackles. I'm just making numbers out of my rear end here, but that's what some of them will tell you. But the truth is, I watched my football team go 5-1 when we asked him to take charge, and I do not remove that, which is the biggest key component here, winning football games. I don't remove that from the equation, just like this whole Jaylen stuff. Well, Jaylen's not better than Josh Allen. Well, Jaylen's not better than Lamar Jackson. Well, Jaylen's a Super Bowl MVP. Jaylen's been in 3 Super Bowls or 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. I was going to say 3 Super Bowls in 2 years, which would be pretty damn impressive. And I can't rule out, hey, Jaylen Hurts doing that because that's how much of a special monster he is. But this guy wins. Don't hit me with X, Y, and Z. I'll hit you with Super Bowl champion. I'll hit you with back-to-back seasons of winning double-digit games in a row in the National Football League. One of them being after a Super Bowl loss. That's a different makeup. That's different DNA. And that's what this team has, by the way. Now, right now, it's up in the air on exactly right guard still. And Tyler Steen maybe beats out Kenyon Green, who they traded for in the Houston Texans trade with CJGJ. It seems to me the ceiling for Green is higher. Tyler Steen, they probably, if they were on a lie detector test, would say they wish he was farther along than where he is, but it definitely is still a strong foundation, and there's still a lot of structure within what he gives you. So it's one of those, I wish he was farther along, but let's not act as if he's a stiff. Let's not act like he can't beat out somebody for the job. It's just Green has that first-round tag applied to his name, and I'd imagine behind the scenes, Jeff Stoutland called Howie Roseman into his room and said, yo, dude, if we can land someone like this, it's the same as the Mekhi Becton experience, you know? And it's funny because this will all tie together in a moment, but Avonte Maddox was somebody else that ended up leaving this organization over the last few days. He ends up landing a spot in Detroit. Hey, every time I've ever encountered Avonte Maddox, great dude, phenomenal dude. It's a shame he just couldn't stay healthy. And then towards the back end, we got annoyed. And remember, this entire team flipped and did a complete 180 whenever Cooper DeJean got slotted in there after the slow start from him physically in the season. And when Avonte Maddox got the whole, hey, sorry, bud, you're not going to be logging in as many snaps, this team started to get on a roll. So I think Avonte Maddox's time, it ran its course here, and I give him a lot of credit. He was a mid-round pick. He held his own for quite some time. But the reason I bring him up is I played hockey my whole life, so I had a lot of teammates when I lived up in Boston from all over the world. I had a couple of teammates from Russia. I had a couple of teammates that were from Sweden. I had a couple of teammates from Minnesota, a few teammates from Michigan. Well, when they signed Avonte Maddox, the reaction is, hey, I really like that piece. And I'm thinking, dude, have him. You know what I mean? So it just puts it in perspective when you sign an Adoree Jackson, or if you sign some of these other, I don't want to call them utility players. My mind's somewhat in baseball mode. But when you go out and get depth, when you go out and get a cornerback 3 that slots in whenever you need some help on a week-to-week basis, or maybe it's a third quarter, somebody needs some time because they have a lingering issue with their knee, you can go out there and at least help the team win that game on that given week. I always wonder when we sit here and really dissect the strengths of an Adoree Jackson or Uche or any of these guys that had moments in other cities and now they come here. It just puts it, because Avonte Maddox is that with Detroit and they're all happy. And I go, yeah, wait until you actually see him play. So others may feel the same way when we start talking about the joy and the positives and the strengths of player X, Y, and Z. Here's the difference, though. The culture. And what I can't forget is the culture here in Philadelphia is real and it's rare. I'm sure the New York Jets fan said, yo, Philadelphia, go enjoy Mekhi Becton. This guy sucks, right? I'm sure they said, yo, Mekhi Becton is barely able to do anything productive. Even the Eagles probably can't pry anything out of him. Look what happened. even with the New York Jets. Now, they knew Saquon Barkley was going to be good, but I remember hearing you had DeAndre Swift, you had Miles Sanders. Look at how they were able to have monster seasons, and you still couldn't get it done. You're going to put that much money and that amount of assets, cap space-wise, into a running back when you've already had so many different weapons who can run the rock extremely well with your offensive line? Yeah. Yes. Because you flourish when you come to winning cultures. You flourish when the organization from top to bottom just breeds winners nonstop. Howie, winner. Laurie, winner. Should have started with Laurie. It is his team. Winner. Stoutland, winner. Sirianni, winner. Jaylen, winner. Devonta, winner. Devonta went on a pod with, who was it? Carmelo Anthony, 7 p.m. in Brooklyn. And this dude's talking about how Saquon Barkley would growl. And when the entire team heard him growl, they knew that there's nothing like that. Think about this, though. Devonta Smith has been around Lane Johnson now for a few years. Devonta Smith has been around Jaylen. And he spoke about his relationship with Jaylen and how much that meant to him and their time together during college football and all that stuff. It was a very unique listen, and Devonta just gets it, man. He's one of us. And I really thought it was a breath of fresh air listening to him reflect on the journey. And we'll get into a little bit of that. But the main point here with the Saquon growling, dude, there are just special players from top to bottom here. And Devonta Smith has been around so many unbelievable pros that have lasted a long time. You've been around BG. You've been around Fletcher Cox. You've been around Darius Slay. You've been around attitudes that are so rare and different. Do you know how many corners would love to sign on the dotted line for a NFL career that lasts as long as Darius Slay's? It's been incredible. You get to go to work every day at the NovaCare complex with that. You get to work in the off seasons with crazy talent and wired athletes, members of your team like that on a day-to-day basis. Yet when he talks about what Saquon does, it elevates and jumps up over all of those names I just mentioned. Imagine being the rarest of the rare. Imagine being the most elite of the elite. Imagine growling. You don't think Lane Johnson with his cabin or his barn that he ends up lifting in 24/7, he's a maniac in the weight room? Yet I'm listening to my wide receiver talk about the greatness of Saquon and how he somehow brings it in a way that he's never seen anybody bring it before. This guy's growling. That fires me up thinking about what he does on a day-to-day basis, and he's not going anywhere. We have that again in this room. We have that, and we also have the added layer of A.J. Brown saying that championship, the feeling afterwards, it didn't even satisfy him. The hunger is the journey. And it wasn't just AJ who said that, who apparently got a ton of backlash, which is embarrassing, by the way, because that's what we want our athletes to be wired like. Tom Brady is eaten alive by his Super Bowl losses more than he appreciates his Super Bowl wins, because that's what deadly athletes do. And what do you think Devonta Smith says about that same comment and remark that AJ mentioned on social media? He said the same damn thing. Carmelo Anthony was asking Devonta Smith all about his feelings and his emotions and how satisfied he was when he was on that field and the confetti was flowing and the Super Bowl trophy, the Lombardi trophy, is in your hands. And my man goes, I kind of co-sign with what everybody else is saying. It was fun. It was awesome. I'll never forget it. I love that locker room like I've never loved a locker room before. But what actually fuels me is getting there. What fuels me is seeing how defeated DBs get when they know they can't stop me. And think about how fun that must be. I say this all the time with the offensive line. And when Lane Johnson, Mailata, Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, when they are mowing you down, at some point when you're a defensive tackle or an edge rusher, you just have to accept that you don't have any business being on that field with these guys. You don't stand a chance. And by the way, there's 3 quarters to go. This is something that gets established within the first quarter that you don't, because guess what? You don't have it now. You think you're going to get the second wave of adrenaline? You think you're going to have conditioning when it's the third quarter, fourth quarter, and they're running the football and Saquon is exploding for 60 yards? Good luck. Now imagine getting to do that as a wide receiver with your footwork, with your routes, and Jaylen Hurts is throwing dimes left and right. By the way, you have a run game that you have to focus on as well. So you need to make sure 26 doesn't get the football or Jaylen isn't keeping it and running it himself as an option. And, all that stuff. I think it's remarkable that this is where we are right now. And we did kind of shift into the Devonta pod a little sneakily there, but using the word sneaky, I do want to make sure, we do reference the big key piece here of this show. And I just want to reiterate that I do think that they had a sneaky big loss this offseason. I want that to be kind of, I don't know why I just randomly decided to plug that right back into the middle of the show. We started off with that, but yeah, I think that's sort of where we're at. And now we're transitioned back to the 7 p.m. in Brooklyn pod. I apologize. I don't know what the hell that was. Real quick, just let's stop here for a second so I can tell you about Garage Beer. It's the best beer on planet Earth. 0% IPA, 100% light beer, 1,000% quality. Philly season, it's upon us. Philly season, it'll be here in a couple days. Imagine drinking any other beer besides a Garage Beer. You'd be an idiot. You'd be dumb. Garage Beer's the best beer ever on planet Earth. DrinkGarageBeer.com. You know what I loved about Devonta? This man has his QBs back. This man, he hears Darius Slay, and I'm sure he loves Slay. Hearing from what Darius Slay meant to that culture in that locker room, we may not love, and I say we being the fan base, everything he says on his podcast. We may not love the fact that he tweets out his stats after a loss saying it wasn't his fault and the passer rating when he was targeted was something that he feels is acceptable and he shouldn't be getting backlash even though they lost. That type of stuff is fugazi, and I'm sure it rubs certain teammates the wrong way or whatnot, but there's more good than bad with Darius Slay in that locker room. But when he goes out after the season's over and says there's a top 4 and leaves Jaylen Hurts out of there, whether he believes it or not, whatever, which is silly, by the way, because Jaylen Hurts is him. But, just the fact that Devonta right afterwards has his QBs back and goes, yeah, listen, I heard Slay's list, and I think that there's a lot of respect that needs to go in their direction of everybody on that list. But there's a top 5, dude. There's a top 5. And QB1 here in Philadelphia is that. And I don't know how you dance around it. I don't know how you pretend he isn't. Oh, he is. Jaylen's a killer. And I can't wait to just continue to watch him grow because there's still growing to be done. This man at the line of scrimmage with Jason Kelce gone, when we were told he dealt with a ton pre-snap. He dealt with so many things when reading what the defense was throwing their way and communicating with everybody. All I watched was Jaylen Hurts nonstop pre-snap, see exactly what the other team was trying to run, and with the snap of the fingers checked into something else, and it resulted in a touchdown. You think that knowledge and his ability to study and him watching tape and him just going full throttle and learning every detail of this game is going to slow down? If anything, it's only going to make him hungrier that you can just continue to shut up everyone. Oh, Jaylen can't do this. You know what it's going to be this upcoming year? Jaylen isn't even that good. Jaylen got carried by his teammates. Jaylen can only be elite if he can do it again. And then he'll do it again and they'll still mock him. But dude, it puts a big smile on my face knowing this is where we're at, even with a sneaky big loss in Fred Johnson, because I have so much faith that they have the ability, either through the draft, they're going to look at the Lane Johnson replacement, because that's what they did with Cam Jurgens. Cam Jurgens was sitting there, kicking it, waiting. Mailata was a 7th-round draft pick, so a little bit different. But I think they had big expectations for him once they realized what his raw natural ability is, because it's that simple. If you have the raw natural ability, then Jeff Stoutland will turn you into a monster. If you don't have the raw natural ability, then there's only so much that Jeff Stoutland can do. If I'm Andre Dillard, I'm just devastated that I'm the only one that can't pan out. I'm the only one that looks like a stiff when it's all said and done. It's absolutely hysterical. But, they always have plans. Zach Ertz, he was eventually going to be moved around 30 years old. Dallas Goedert was drafted, and he slides in. And now we need to figure out exactly what they're going to do with the Dallas Goedert stuff, and that's probably a different conversation for a different day. They're always prepared for that. So I think they are going to have a swing tackle in their back pocket. They have something in their mind. They aren't blindly going into this without any idea. You heard Howie Roseman speak in Indianapolis at the scouting combine and made it very known. Not that we didn't know this, right? You have to look at what they do, not what they say. That is definitely typical. That is 101 for Howie Roseman stuff, is pay attention to the actions more than whatever word vomit he wants to spew in your direction. Sometimes they align, sometimes they don't, and you got to find the lies and the realness of it all. But he said he was legitimately and is still legitimately obsessed with big men in the trenches on both sides of the line. So knowing that, and knowing that it's always been, since Andy Reid put a monster emphasis on it, that's not going away anytime soon. So if Fred Johnson goes to Jacksonville, which he is, that's already official, then they have something in their back pocket to figure it out. Is it going to be sexy? Probably not. Who would have thought Fred Johnson was a sexy name? Nobody even mentioned the fact that he left. Everyone thinks, all right, whatever. Forgetting what Fred Johnson did this season. It was a big role, and it was big shoes to fill. You got to find serviceable at the minimum. The floor has to be hold the fort down if there needs to be a 5-game stretch, a 4-game stretch, a 6-game stretch. That was what put this team in a position to rattle off a bunch of wins in a row after the bye week. Remember, there was that really ugly, terrible, win against the New Orleans Saints. And at the time, people thought the Saints were going to be good because they were putting up crazy numbers. Then they had the loss to Tampa Bay. Then there was the bye week, right? Cleveland, New York was in there. Cincinnati was in there. Dallas was in there. Without him stepping in, I don't know if you win 10 in a row. So we need to make sure that that role gets filled. And I expect it to, and I have belief that it will. But I don't want to lose sight that that was a sneaky big loss during this offseason. All right, everybody, that's going to do it. I greatly appreciate you kicking it with me here on Bleacher Report today. I will be with you all week, 6 o'clock right here, 6 Eastern. Appreciate it. You guys are the best. Go Birds! Talk to you tomorrow.